Hey, now it is me, D.L. Hughley. Welcome to Uncertain. Hey, as a matter of fact, the only thing I'm certain about is that I don't really know shit. One of the things I was most taken by was well, let me show you this clip here. Now, for context, this is a bunch of protesters who apparently in St. Paul found out that one of the pastors of this church was a high-ranking member of ICE, given what's happened in Minneapolis, where a young woman, Miss Good, was shot by an ICE officer under that, even if we're being the most liberal terms, dubious circumstances. So they find out that David Easterwood, I think was his name, was a pastor at this church, and Black Lives Matter protesters showed up there. And this is, of course, you see what happens. The most interesting thing about this is that Black Lives Matter was protesting the death of a white woman, whereas the All Lives Matter people have donated $1 million to the killer of Miss Good. And I think that it was interesting to watch people be so offended. Like, more people could potentially be charged for having this protest. You know, they're talking about the Don Lemon, who was the one of the reporters, and several other people who were involved. I think they're talking about the mayor and maybe the governor. There are more people who could potentially be charged or interviewed by the Department of Justice than the shooter. Churches have always had protests. Like, people don't understand their religion. There was a cross section between religion and people having a political statement. Like, the Klan chose a cross. The Klan often had meetings at churches. Like, if you look at Dr. Martin Luther King, who we're celebrating this week, he gave a lot of speeches, and one of his most famous speeches was to eulogize 4 young girls who were blew up in a church in Birmingham. We've had, 190 something in the 90s. There were almost 200 black churches burned in rural America. People have always used churches for whatever protests they wanted to make. But the thing I find about these kind of protests and how they're being used as political statements is, you can burn a church, you can blow a church up, you can shoot a church, but do not protest in one. Like, you can have a gun, but don't come with a sign. And people forget that in churches, in temples, Jesus protested at least twice. He had when he turned over all those tables in that temple, he was protesting greed and them selling doves. He didn't like what was going on. He was protesting greed and corruption. As a matter of fact, when I read the story about Jesus turning over those tables in the temple, was the first time I ever thought he was white, because only a white dude could turn over tables in the church and not go to jail. So that was interesting to me. But the fact that the church is where and people on the right who are angry about this are forgetting, or maybe conveniently forgetting, that many on the right wanted the ICE agents and Border Patrol to be able to go into churches and to arrest and detain people that were going to church. Originally, a lot of people thought it was going to be just the criminals and the rapists and the murderers, but they made a deliberate effort to go after illegal immigrants at work, at church, and at school. Now, I don't know how many murderers go to church, school, and work, but they wanted to go where they knew they were at. If you want to catch a fish, you got to go where it's biting. You can, in your mind, reconcile the fact that ICE would come there and arrest people who are praying, but you cannot reconcile within your mind that people might want to protest it, that people might want to say, because the interesting thing about church, again, is that it's where we learn about the thing that Jesus wanted us. Jesus told us how to treat the strangers among us. He told us how to treat the immigrants. We're supposed to feed them. We're supposed to clothe them. We're supposed to protect them. We're not supposed to throw them niggas in vans after church service. And I just think it is so hypocritical, the things that draw this country's ire. Like, even Nicki Minaj was angry, and she called, I think, Don Lemon a thug, and she called him a cocksucker. Well, Don Lemon is a gay dude who's married. So if he doesn't do that, he ain't gonna be married. You know what they call a gay dude who don't do that? Single is what they call it. But you are more angry at the person who was merely the camera, merely reporting on what had happened, than the actual events that led up to it. And Nicki Minaj, of all people, they are protesting people who came here, maybe came here as young kids, people who came here and they were legal immigrants, the very people who ICE is harassing and detaining and sending off to various parts of the world. They are protesting for her and people like her. And she was mad at them. And the insulting thing is that the movement she has embraced, the Turning Point movement, Charlie Kirk, who was one of the founding fathers, most influential people in that movement, didn't like Nicki Minaj at all. He was the antithesis of everything. He didn't think she was a positive role model for black women, as if he would know that. He didn't want illegal immigrants here. So everything that he had a disdain for, she represents. And now all of a sudden, she's a spokesperson who is saying some of the most inane things. I can understand us having ideological difference, but you are talking about being concerned about, the welfare of children when your husband is a registered sex offender. Like, the right is more angry at gay people and transgender than pedophile. You have a husband that is a registered sex offender. You have a brother who has served time for being a sex offender. Like, it's weird to me that would be the thing, the path you chose to go down. It's clear that you can't even, with that many sex offenders in your proximity, you can't have Cabbage Patch Kids, New Kids on the Block. You can't have Sour Patch Kids. And I don't understand why Nicki Minaj would be worried about Don Lemon when it's Chris Hansen she needs to be worried about, the dude from Catch a Predator. I don't get that. And it's obvious they're using her. You think that a woman who did a song called Anaconda might know when somebody was taking advantage of her. But that is where we are. There are a lot of people in this country who believe that America was doing okay right into the civil rights. Like, I remember I heard a guy from Duck Dynasty, one of the guys from Duck Dynasty, well, the black people, they were fine before civil rights. No, they were just quiet. They never liked it. It was, or you had even Donald Trump, who today, and I think the thing to remember about this is that this is not, a fringe leader. This is the leader of one of America's major political parties. This is somebody having a conversation out loud. He didn't say it on the internet. He said it to the New York Times. And he was talking about how he thought that civil rights was unfair to a lot of white people. Even Ronald Reagan left the Democratic Party because he thought they'd gone too far. You had a whole juxtaposition. You had the civil rights caused people to virtually switch parties. Like, black people before the Civil Rights Act were primarily Republican, and after the Civil Rights Act, they switched to Democrat. Because black people, we kind of go by the guy who did something for us last. Like, and that would have been Lincoln. And if the last time you did something significant for black people was the dude on the penny, you got to update your resume. That's the thing. But there was a switch. Black people went and became Democrats and Republicans. The Dixiecrats became Republican. They switched sides. But the apparently the inflection point of all of this was the Civil Rights Act. Because before the Civil Rights Act, you would have had, I think in the 1850s, you had the Dred Scott decision, which held that no black person had rights that a white person had to respect. You had Jim Crow. You had separate but equal. We had a whole lot of separate but not a lot of equal. But then you started to have these laws. The Warren courts were responsible for all of these laws that got passed. Brown versus Board of Education. The Miranda rights law, various laws, the Voters' Rights Act, all that stuff happened. And a lot of people thought that was overreach, that it was going too far. And a lot of white people were offended by that. And nothing significant, like Donald Trump says, and I think we have the quote here, how they were poorly treated, but nothing happened to them. The money didn't change, their prospects for the future didn't change, their housing didn't change, their education didn't change. What changed is they were asked to be civil to black people. And they chose to call it the Civil Rights Act, which I find interesting. They didn't call it the Superior Rights Act. They didn't call it the Equal Rights Act. They didn't even call it the Fair Rights Act. They just called it civil. And civil is the barest level of interaction. Like, it's interesting that Donald Trump would say how poorly they were treated, but if you watch all of the iconic pictures from the civil rights, it was the black people were getting poorly treated. There's a famous picture, I think we have it here, of people at the Woolworth counter. What I find interesting about that is how shitty the food was. Like, black people got their ass whipped for shitty food. Do you see the menu here? Like, it's shitty food. It's horrible food. You got your ass whipped for unseasoned bullshit. Because that's what equality looked like. But even in all those pictures, you don't see anybody mistreating white people, because they thought that would approximate humanity or fairness. If I get to sit at this counter and eat this shitty food while dogs are set, I get dogs set on me, I get water hose on, I get beaten by batons, and all I get for it was a fucked up patty melt. That's the worst thing ever. But that's a fairly common refrain where a lot of white guys and a lot of white people, period, feel like because of the Civil Rights Act, those Civil Rights Act, and it took decades to implement it. It didn't just happen in one day. There wasn't just one thing that passed and all of a sudden they started acting in accordance with the bills. It took decades, and they thought that was the inflection point. You look at what happened that would kind of draw the people's ire. Like, why would they get so angry, and what happened? Nothing. They didn't make more money than you. They couldn't go to your schools. Many times, schools didn't finish getting segregated to the late 80s. There were schools that were still segregated in the 80s. There were schools black people still. There were places they still couldn't live. The very place we're shooting for them right now is in Burbank, and it was a sundown town. And in there, there's a friend of mine who sold his house about 3 years ago and showed us the charter where they weren't allowed to sell to black people. As soon as he showed us, he said, "Get out, nigga." No, that's not true. But nothing substantively changed. They could still do what they wanted. They still had the benefit of and presumption of innocence in law. They still got the best jobs. They still got the best education. They still had the best houses. What changed is that they were asked to be civil. What changed is they just couldn't do whatever they wanted to do. Not without necessarily, because the laws didn't necessarily change. It was the way they were looked at by people. They were asked to be civil. So you had lynchings and whippings and protests and dogs and water hoses and people killed in fields, and all kind of barbaric things happen just because you asked white people to be nice. I'm always amazed at how they liken ICE to the Gestapo. Like, you add the chief of the Border Patrol walking around in what looked like an SS jacket and giving a sign. But the more apt comparison isn't ICE to the Gestapo. It's that Hitler learned everything he learned from the Reconstruction South. He learned, the way to treat people, the racial separation, the gases he used, the tactics he used, all came from the South. Reconstruction South. He was a voracious consumer of our history. And everything he learned from us. So it isn't ICE acting like Nazis. It's that Nazis act like rednecks. It's that they learned from us. And I think it lets us off the hook historically when we do not take ownership of the parts that we played. I remember one of the largest rallies that was held in America, where there was an image of George Washington. And one of the speakers said that if George Washington knew Hitler, they would be friends. And it's this whole idea of America. Like now, Donald Trump has said that he wants Greenland, and Greenland was colonized by Denmark. Denmark also colonized Guyana, India, and I forgot what other place.
Ghana, the Virgin Islands, India,
the Virgin Islands.
Yeah,
it was India and the Virgin Islands. That's Alex. He's our Google. I'm sorry, Jugal. they colonized all these places. Donald Trump said words to the effect that he wanted Greenland, whether they wanted to come or not. And in response to that, France, Germany, England, and Canada rose up and said that they would support Denmark. So literally what you have is colonizers banding together to stop a colonizer from being colonized. Now, if that ain't white on white crime, I don't know what is. Maybe in some decades and some periods of time, it would have been an honor for America to consider bringing you into its country, like to annex you and make you. But now we don't have the cachet we used to. Like they have free health care and maternity leave and free college. What the fuck would you want to be? Like even now, ICE can ask you, they can walk up to you and ask to prove to you American. Prove to me you're American. Like what the fuck you gonna do? Tell me, how do you prove you're American? We're gonna say, I'm fat and I can't read? What do you do? You too. But we are in interesting times. And I still, for the life of me, cannot figure out how annexing Greenland makes the average American's life better. It doesn't make your eggs lower. It doesn't make your insurance premiums lower. It doesn't improve your prospect of jobs. It doesn't make your neighborhood safer. It doesn't protect your religious freedom. It doesn't protect you from immigration. Like nothing. Annexing Greenland will do nothing for you that in any substantive way. It'll be another place that America has that you don't know anything about. And the thing about, we can't find, most people don't know what Greenland is. The thing about Greenland and Iceland was green and Greenland was icy. And they did that to fool the Vikings. So apparently Donald Trump doesn't get that either. But putting tariffs or threatening to put tariffs on European products, French wines and French cheeses, does what for you exactly? Like, I don't understand what it's supposed to do. And after he threatened that, of course, we had a contraction on Wall Street where the market tumbled. And today he said, well, I'm going to take the tariffs off because, we have a long-term deal. I guarantee you, this is what I guarantee you for sure. They don't have a deal in place. Whatever they're going to get, they may do some placatory concession where they give the United States something like give them more military advantage or more base, whatever it is. What will happen is that the world will understand that the United States of America, under this current administration, is untrustworthy. And I think that it's time for America to understand that what we are doing right now and the way we're seen right now isn't beneficial for us at all. But you don't have to look much further than our borders to see how destabilizing he was. Canada has formed an alliance with China, and China is going to let Chinese electric cars come here. And one of the things that Biden did do was make sure that wasn't going to happen. He made sure that those cars that are cheaper, more technologically advanced, those cars would probably ruin the car industry here. It'd be the nail in the coffin for Detroit. But because of the way that Trump has interacted with Canada, they're signing with China. Now, all of a sudden, China's going to send cars here that really disrupt our auto market. So I know that the people who like him do. I just don't understand what they get out of it. Like, I get that you get to piss off the libs. I get that you get to wear stupid ass hats and to say dumb shit on Twitter and to have people be mad at you. But what do you get? What do you get? Your premiums, your insurance premiums are higher. You can't afford groceries anymore. Your job prospects are nil. What do you, I mean, but you get to tell black people that their history's gone and gay people can't, you'll never have to see somebody compete, transgender compete in an athletic event. But what did you get other than that? So it's just an ironic time we find ourselves in. And you have a man who wants to win the Nobel Peace Prize, but he has used the military in 7 different countries. And he's used the power of the American military in 5 different cities, 5 different states. He used them in California. One to use them in Oregon, used them in Illinois, used them in Minnesota, and in D.C. He is the most violent, peaceful motherfucker I've ever seen. Like, when I see people who are Somalian and who live in Minnesota and Minneapolis, and they were Trump supporters, and now he has stripped them from their protection they had. They once enjoyed, so they can be deported and have till March to leave. Or you have Cubans who thought that, and now they're getting deported at a high rate in Florida. Or you had Haitians who voted for him and their protections are gone. Or Venezuelans, not only their protections are gone, but their country, their homeland is under attack. And black people who voted for him. And now your history's gone. Your woman doesn't have a job. They've reclassified, professions so that you can't get loans to go to school. Like, it's just been. I wonder what they got. And if I see a new Trump, being a black new Trump supporter is like getting addicted to crack right now. They don't even make it no more. Like, crack comes with an 8-track tape. Like, I don't know. But there are people who, no matter what, just cannot, they cannot admit that they made a mistake. Like, 85% of black men voted for Harris. 92% of black women voted for Harris. But most college-educated people voted for Harris. The higher the education level, the greater tendency to have voted differently than they did. So black people voted the same way as educated white people. So a dude who went to Harvard voted the same way as a nigga who lived on Harvard. So what do they know? And I think what they knew, the one thing they do have in common is that there is no greater person who has a greater vantage point and a greater understanding of men like Trump than black people. We know you. We've seen people like you our entire life. Our great-grandfathers knew you. Our grandfathers knew you. We know you. We learned from history, but educated white people took it. And that is why they come to the same thing. If you see all that's going on right now, there's nothing going on that black people and college-educated white people didn't foresee. Nothing. Everything that is happening, everybody knew would happen, except the people who are now shocked that it did. Either you didn't read or you didn't listen, but ultimately you'll never see black people or college-educated white people go, I can't believe this nigga doing it. I can't believe it. And still through all that, there are people who I think that there are people who I can't quite figure out what their angle is. One minute, but they're definitely lukewarm. They're definitely on the fence. Like, this is some of the things Stephen A. Smith says.
He's hearing that black folks find him relatable because what he's going through is similar to what black Americans have gone through. He wasn't lying. He was telling the truth. When you see the law enforcement, the court system, and everything else being exercised against him, it is something that black folks throughout this nation can relate to with some of our historic, iconic figures. We've seen that happen throughout society. So no matter what race, what ethnicity you may emanate from, we relate to you when you're suffering like that because we know we have. And that's what he articulated. As unpopular as it was, as much as we didn't like to hear it, it's the truth.
And this is him recently.
Trump is blowing it. He's blowing it. He's going to blow it for himself. He's going to blow it for the GOP. He's going to blow it for Congress. He's going to blow it for the Senate. And he's likely going to blow it for the White House. All because of what I said from day one. The man don't know how to act.
Every week, I'm going to find somebody who does some shit that can't be explained. And the only thing you can say is, this nigga here. And the thing about it is he's really seriously saying that he's seriously considering running for president. I just don't know who his constituents would be. I think that he says and does what is convenient. I think you can't go from telling me that black people vote for you or support you because you're a convict and because you had all these felonies and you had the law after you, and then go and tell me that you're blowing it because you don't know how to act. I don't understand how a man will want to be a leader who doesn't take account of all of the aspects that are going on. We already in America have a cruel leader. We already have somebody who leaps to conclusions, who is very transactional, who only supports people that support him. We really don't have the United States of America. If you live in a blue state or a blue city, or you have a different opinion, you don't have representation. What you have is somebody who antagonizes you. We already know what it's like when somebody who is cruel and transactional is in office. And all of his natural inclinations are, like when he talked about where he believed that basically it was a young woman's fault for getting killed in Minneapolis. A true leader might have his own inclinations, might have his own beliefs, but never once have I heard either one of those men call for unity. That no one has said, let's cooler heads prevails. No one has said, let's let this play out. No one has said, let's not jump to conclusions. No one has said, we're all one group. No one has said, we want justice just like you do. They've all leaned to their natural inclination. So I don't know why you think you get to be president or would want to be president when you basically have co-opted the worst aspects of the one we have. We don't need somebody who acts who acts with malice, somebody who teases people, somebody who belittles people, somebody who's selfish, somebody who's bellicose, somebody who's grandiose, somebody who's transactional. We don't need somebody like that. We already got one. And the white one is probably in higher value, higher demand. All right, that's it for me. I'm going to see you next Thursday. The bar is open. I'm out.